Good afternoon, everybody, and we appreciate you guys coming out for another update here. Today you're going to hear from Khalid Bahur, Commissioner of Burke Lakefront Airport. I'll spell his name for you. Khalid Bahur. And also Dr. Thomas Gilson with the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office. ThomasGilson. Please hold your questions for the end of the press conference.
Good afternoon. Today I'd just like to provide you an update and some information about the recovery operation of the Cessna 525 citation. At the center of this search and recovery effort are the family members grieving the loss of their loved ones. We again remind and ask that you continue to respect them during this very, very difficult time. As part of the search and recovery effort, our team to date has recovered what appears to be human remains, and I will introduce Dr. Gilson, who will come to the podium and present to you some information related to the human remains.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yesterday, on January 11th, Medical Examiner's Office was dispatched to collect what was reported to us as possible human remains. As we already explained when we spoke to you earlier this week, remains collected on Friday were of human origin. They were male gender. I have nothing further to share about them right now, and a definitive identification has not been made yet. We continue to work on that. We can confirm that the additional remains that were collected yesterday are of human origin. I don't have further information on them other than attempts at identification are underway. I mentioned earlier that the nature of the remains is that we have to rely on DNA identification. If there are specialty questions around DNA, I have my DNA unit director, Dr. Nasir Butt, Nasirbutt, with me today, who could address those if I'm not able to. We met with the family this morning to explain that process of how we were going to go about identification. They've been wonderfully cooperative with us in terms of providing reference specimens for comparison. And we certainly want to make every effort we can to bring closure to them on this tragedy. I'll turn it back to Commissioner Bahur.
Yesterday, our divers recovered several significant pieces of the aircraft, and I'll just give you some idea of what was recovered yesterday. Rear pressure bulkhead, and these are significantly large pieces of aircraft that were recovered. Left wing of the aircraft. Engine cowling, basically the metal covers on the engines. Rear stabilizer bar of the aircraft. The Aris box, and the Aris box records mechanical information, and that's something that we were able to recover last night and turned over to the FAA and the NTSB. Today's operations, today we have two vessels in the water, one from the Cleveland Division of Fire and the other one from Underwater Marine Contractors. The Cleveland Fire vessel will be using side scanning sonar to go over a narrowed portion, a better defined portion of the search area that is approximately 600 feet by 300 feet. This area is what we believe to be the center or the focus of the debris field for portions of the aircraft that are still currently at the bottom of the lake. The side scanning sonar will be used to get imaging at the bottom of the lake, and then we'll take that information and analyze it as well. Divers will then enter the water, which they have. They are currently in the water right now, and they're finding debris related to the aircraft, and we've already recovered some debris today. Divers from Cleveland Fire and our divers with sector and sonar aboard the Salvage Chief. The sector sonar basically takes an image of the surrounding areas, and we're also using the sonar to help guide the divers who are at the bottom of the lake walking, looking for debris. So that sonar is very, very important for this effort. Again, divers are recovering what we believe to belong to the aircraft, parts and debris from the aircraft. Some of the debris collected today we're going to have large pieces, but we're also going to have some of the smaller pieces as well, and some of the control panels that they've continued to recover. Once that debris is brought up, we will examine it and we will conclusively determine that this is aircraft from debris from the aircraft. Once again, investigators confirm that we will not tell the media what's been found yet. We will notify the family first, and then we will share this information with the media. So our protocol is to, whatever we bring up from the lake, we will share with the media, with the family first, and then with the media. That concludes my comments.
Any questions?
Did the pilot de-ice the plane before takeoff?
That's going to be part of the investigation. The NTSB and the FAA will look at the entire activity of the aircraft from once they left Ohio State Airport and arrived at Burke, and then once they left from Burke, and then following the accident. So that'll be something that the FAA will look at.
There'd be paperwork if that was done at the airport, though. Does that paperwork exist?
De-icing happens at the FBO, and it's something that the pilot, it's a decision made by the pilot whether to de-ice or not to de-ice.
Could you explain the Cleveland Police Department's role in the search and rescue effort and what devices were used?
Director?
The Cleveland Police Department they were part of the recovery mode, and their main responsibility was shoreline, to go up and down the shoreline from 72nd Street all the way through Euclid, and they're continuing that particular strategy today. And they will. And the accident investigation unit, it's their responsibility to do the accident report for the plane crash. It's a basic form that they have to fill out, and then all the debris that is recovered is controlled by the crime scene unit. They tag it, log it, package it, and then at some point it'll be turned over to the airport authorities and the FAA.
Regarding the Aris box, how can that help in this crash investigation?
The Aris box has mechanical information or data on the device. One of the issues with the Aris box, it's not crash proof, so we don't know what kind of information we're going to be able to receive from the box, but that's something that is being transported or was given to the FAA this morning for review.
Can you talk a little bit about the DNA testing? What does that include? How long will that take?
We're expediting that. We can generate a DNA profile within a day if the specimens that we recover are adequate to that task. The testing is complicated because we're not necessarily dealing with comparisons direct from person to specimen. We're doing reverse paternity testing essentially to try to establish those relationships. And as I said earlier, the family's been very wonderfully cooperative in what I can only think is a very trying time for them. But that will be the nature of the analysis that we'll do.
When are you hoping to be able to identify the remains that were found last Friday?
We hope to have some tentative information. Well, we have the tentative information, potentially to match those depending on how the reference samples come as early as tomorrow, maybe beginning of next week.
The remains found yesterday, does it appear, how many people does it appear that you recovered?
I don't want to speculate on it. There, were different portions of recognizable human remains that were there. We treat each of those as an individual until proven otherwise. So even if they're found in close proximity to each other, if they're not physically attached, we treat them as a separate potential person and run DNA on all of them. So I'd say at a minimum we probably are looking at 3 people, but maybe more.
Can you talk a little bit about the voice recorder? I know the NTSB released a statement yesterday talking about what they've been able to recover, but what kind of insight that gives into the investigation about what happened in the crash?
Yeah, I think when the NTSB, when Tim Sorensen was here, he provided kind of a timeline or a tentative timeline what the investigation will look like. They don't divulge that information. It's the NTSB is the owner of that information right now. They are the owner of that portion of the investigation, and at some point they will release their findings. So at this point, it would be speculation on my part, and I would just defer to the NTSB to provide that information.
It's been a couple weeks now since this plane first crashed, and obviously it's taken a long time. It took a while to find the wreckage last week. Do you feel the city did everything possible to find the wreckage as quickly as possible?
Absolutely.
How long do you expect the investigation to continue?
It's a day-to-day. As you know, the weather outside will dictate, how long we go and how, if you look outside today, it was rain, fog, it was a little bit windy. So it's challenging, especially when you have a number of people that are out there on boats and people diving. So it's a very challenging environment, but we're going to do everything that is safe for our divers and our first responders.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the wreckage you've recovered at this point?
I can only tell you that we've recovered a significant number of items from the debris from the aircraft, large pieces. Again, we've recovered an engine, a wing, portions of the fuselage, and so a lot of the big stuff, some of the control panels related to the aircraft. So we've recovered a significant amount of debris. I don't want to give you a percentage because I like to be accurate, but at this point, it's a lot of debris.
Is there something specifically that you're still looking for?
Our primary focus throughout this entire search and recovery has been human remains. Our number one priority is recover human remains, and then debris was secondary. We are recovering as we go. If it's a big piece, we're recovering it. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to recover all of the debris because some of it is so small. But our primary focus, human remains and large parts of the aircraft.
How many pieces at this point? It was 170, I think, the last time we spoke with them.
It's about 250 pieces of aircraft debris that we were able to recover to today.
And do any of them show signs of a fire or being burnt or anything like that? Or?
Again, at this point, it would be speculation on my part. That's something that the NTSB will vet and examine and provide at the end of their investigation.
Last time you said that there was a football size or about a football size search area. Are you still in that same search area now?
Yeah, we've been able to reduce the search zone based on some of the data that we have and some information that we have. It's a lot of work. It's slow. It's a slow process, just because of the weather and some of the challenges out on the water at this time of year. But we were able to reduce the debris zone, and we're very confident that we're getting there.
Can you describe how big the debris zone is?
It's approximately 600 feet by 300 feet, which is still a significant amount of area to cover, especially when a diver is connected to an umbilical and he's at the bottom of the lake with almost zero visibility, and he's walking to try to recover debris. And once they identify the debris, then he's got to tie it up, and then they have to safely raise it to the salvage boat. So it's a very tedious, difficult process, but we have the best team out there to do that.
Do you have a better picture of how many more days the recovery efforts will continue?
Once we get to that point, we'll notify the family first, and that's something that we will absolutely share with everyone else. But at this point, we haven't discussed this with the family. We're going to discuss it with the family first and then provide an update.
Thanks, Cal. One more thing before we close. Director McGrath, if you could join me up here. There's been some question over the use of the CPD chopper during the course of this investigation. So, Director, if you could just elaborate on that a little bit for us.
The way I understand it is some folks have questioned the operational status of the Cleveland Police Department helicopter. Our helicopters are certified. The pilots are certified. We have a certified mechanic on staff. We have a contract with a helicopter maintenance contractor in Columbus, Ohio. There's a question relative to the pontoons that were on the craft. Normally, it is our protocol, once the winter season sets in and the lake freezes over, that they remove the pontoons. They were removed when this particular tragedy took place. We deployed our aviation unit on New Year's Day, at which time they put the platoons back on the aircraft. And another bit of information is even with the pontoons on, the aircraft can fly over water, but not at nighttime. That's just our policy. During the daytime, the pontoons, they can go over water. And without the pontoons, they do not go over water. So I hope I answered a few questions that were presented sometime today by someone else. But that's basically, it is certified, the pontoons are certified, mechanics are certified, and they're ready to go at any time.
And do you know the last time the pontoons were certified, or if we can find that somewhere online?
We'll get that for you. Thanks, everybody.